fashion, things to wear, possibly faces covered, but more importantly, covering up the bodies. Merch. We have that now. We are very, very excited to announce that Vampire and the Devil have partnered with our friends at Rockin' Horror Apparel. They are now taking care of the actual merch, the exclusive merch for the Vampire and Devil podcast, modeled by our very sexy devil right here.
Oh, yeah.
But we have all kinds of goodies to share with you.
Got the hoodies, we got some shirts, we got some tanks coming up, we got some booty shorts, we got all the stuff you want to wear from the Vampire and Devil podcast, thanks to Rockin' Horror.
Horns up, fangs out. Fangs and Infernos, we are cruising through the cons. Sometimes we can be seen, sometimes we're floating around, flying around, and sometimes we're coming up from underneath. Let's talk about a preview for an upcoming event that Devil and I are very, very stoked about. They've always been super good to us. We really appreciate everything that Ryan does, and we are super stoked to, of course, be coming back through to do more press, more fun interviews, but again, of course, have a really just great time. Devil, New Jersey Horror Con is back.
Yeah, and this time we're scrapping the what would be the convention center setting, and we're going back to the roots of cons and going into the hotel realm. So you know what I mean. You know what that means? That means more drunken, crazy shenanigans is gonna happen more because rightfully so. You go to these cons at conventions and you have to drive to your hotel or drive back to it. So you're gonna be respectable, don't drink and drive. But when you're at the con, you don't have to drive anywhere. You just gotta remember what button to hit in the elevator and remember where your room is, or just pass out somewhere in the lobby, one or the other. But yeah, definitely looking forward to the New Jersey Horror Con, and there's a lot of cool guests. They're talking about, we're waiting for the finer details, but we heard that for the Saturday VIP party, they're bringing in karaoke, which I think is always fun. I remember some karaoke's before, like great ones like V&D alumni Roach when we saw Sean Whalen. I remember him singing one at one time doing Jesse's Girl, and it was the greatest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. We saw a couple of the guys from Killer Clowns from Outer Space sing some songs. So it's always, those things are always fun because not only is it, you get the drunken, people who go to the cons that do this karaoke, but once in a while you get some of the celebrities that will come out of their shells and sing some funny ones and stuff like that. So looking forward to that. But yeah, I mean, as far as the New Jersey Horror Con, the big one, where usually when we go to these cons, it's usually myself and the Vampire and Miss Vamp, but Miss Devil is going to be coming around because they're bringing not the one and the only, the drummer, the true drummer, Peter Chris is going to be there, which is just going to have a Kiss reunion somewhat of sorts, because not only is Peter Chris going to be there from Kiss, but if you've seen Detroit Rock City, and we have, because V&D alumni James DeBello, who has been in that movie, who we've talked to, who's actually going to be at the con, but him and Edward Furlong are going to be there. So it's going to be a little Detroit Rock City rocking around in the New Jersey area.
And a photo op, I believe, Devil.
Yeah, I heard that there was a photo op getting in the works with maybe one of them. They haven't really quite did the details of it yet, so maybe we're hoping that we get Sam Jam to join the con. Like I said, we would really love Giuseppe, but like I said the last time we talked to James and all them, apparently, he's living the life of solitude somewhere in the mountains of New York or something like that. So, I mean, not saying that we wouldn't love to see him. I mean, we definitely would, but the chances are we're probably going to see Bigfoot before we probably see Giuseppe, but who knows?
No, for sure. And there's so many great guests that they're bringing in for this one. Some we've met before, some we'll be meeting for the first time, but a couple that I'm really excited about. And of course, actually, that Mrs. Vamp is also very excited about. So I had met her years ago and didn't actually get anything signed, didn't get a picture, just kind of spoke to her for a little while, and then always had a little bit of like buyer's remorse. But look, sometimes that kind of works out in your favor because over the years that happened after that, I came across, some cool stuff. Like we have talked about this movie on one of our showdowns. It didn't come out on top, but that's okay. And that would be the one and only Tracy Lords from, of course, Crybaby and Shock 'em Dead, which I'm a super fan of because in those passing years, they had gotten I had a bootleg of that movie, which isn't going to ruin my day to have it signed because when you can't really get movies officially, there's a very cool company called VHSPS that is really, really cool and have always been very upfront about making hard to find movies available, you know. And then when those movies do get official releases, they have said that they will no longer print them to not take money away from the official releases. But anyway, I had since gotten a copy of Shock 'em Dead on Blu-ray when I interviewed Michelangelo Badio, who is my absolute favorite guitar player and was also the basically the musical stuntman of Shock 'em Dead. He signed that movie, and it'll be very, very cool to get Tracy on there as well, being that I am such a fan of that movie. But also, I had gotten one of her like albums. I just stumbled across it at like a record store, and I'm like, that's really cool. I'm gonna buy that. That would just be a cool thing to have. And then casually, I'd be like, maybe somewhere down the line, the opportunity might present itself for a signing, and that opportunity has presented itself. But Mrs. Vamp is also really hype about that as well, too. She was actually telling me today, she's like, I want to wear something really cool for Tracy Lords. Like, I want to get like a really cool outfit put together. And that's going to be the other thing that's like really super exciting about it because most of the time when we're doing cons, even with New Jersey Horror Con, we're typically there for 2 days. But depending on you know, how the con shaped, we usually only tend to have a day that is definitely our main kill shot. And you know, Mrs. Vamp gets tired, Mrs. Devil might get tired. You and I are doing our thing, but we also get tired. So like it'll be really nice again for us not to have to worry about getting in our car to drive back to our hotel, which is not far, but just like you said, we can hit a button. Any one of us can go up and put our feet up for a little while and then just come right back on down. So that's going to be a really, really cool thing that I'm stoked that we have the opportunity to do that. And then also, I'm looking forward to seeing Christy Swanson again. So we've talked about also one of her movies as well, twice in Deadly Friend, with it not only being voted by the Fangs and Infernos to be our letter D movie from our first round of the Alphabets of Horror, but of course we did our Wes Craven episode. So that'll be also be really, really cool. I'd met her years ago, and of course, I'm very partial to getting my vampire thing signed first and foremost. But since I am such a super nerd for Deadly Friend and always have been, I'm looking forward to, wherever she decides to pop it on there, to get that signed as well. And then I'll definitely be up to date on the Christy Swanson stuff that I really like. And the funny thing is with Tracy Lords, because again, got to play a little bit of the financial game like everybody does at these cons. She was in Blade 2, and I'll probably bring it to have it with me just in case. But I'm currently committing to the 2 autographs because you pay per. But every now and then you get some little strikes of luck. So Brittany Daniels had done this for me back when we were talking to her at New Jersey Horror Con. But when Christy signed Buffy, she said, "Hey, do you mind if I sign the DVD also?" And I'm like, "No, not at all. That's your choice." So like, that's actually kind of a cool thing. So who knows? Maybe Deadly Friend might end up with the double blessing as well, which kind of wouldn't suck because while I do love this cover, I've always been very fond of this cover. You do have her entire face on the DVD, which is kind of cool. Because that was actually the funny thing when it came to Brittany Daniels was the fact is she's like, "Do you want me to sign the front because it's like it's my body, or do you want me to sign the back where you can see my actual face?" And I'm like, "Dealer's choice, Brittany. It's up to you." And she's like, "I'll just sign them both." I'm like, "Hey, you said it, not me. Your manager, your handler cannot get mad at me. That was your choice. But hell yeah, do it." But anyway, definitely a cool one for sure. But it's going to be great to see James again. It's going to be great to see Edward again. You know, we've met him a few times. We've put him on the Crow. Added him to my Detroit Rock City little 8x10 that would love for Sam Huntington to appear to basically be able to finish that out because again, similar to discussions that we've had about oh damn it. Ah shit. Jamie Gertz. We know that she's around, of course, but she does not need the con circuit. So neither one of us are particularly holding our breath to get her on our respective Lost Boys things. But that's all right. But it's definitely a cool one, and they're still dropping announcements for New Jersey Horror Con, and it's 2 weeks away.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And like I said, we're always talking about we need more rockers and stuff like that. They got Lita Ford's gonna come, which is gonna be awesome. We gotta have that. We gotta talk to her for a couple minutes, and I'm gonna print out an 8x10 of her picture of the girls to give to her that we gotta see her at an event. So that'd be cool. Hopefully, we'll be able to. Get a couple extra minutes to talk to her and stuff like that. But you got that. You have freaking Joey Casa, someone that you're familiar with that you've talked to before. So he's going to be there. And then, obviously the Devil's going to love this one. But we got we got Captain Howdy, man. We got some Eileen Dietz from The Exorcist coming there, man. I wish it was the other Captain Howdy. I wish it was D. Snyder. That's hopefully one that we'll get. But Eileen Dietz is really, really cool. I met her at a con years ago, like one of the first
Same.
ones and I'm like talking about, how my mom is like deadly afraid of the Exorcist movie and she doesn't love it and she hates that movie and it scares her and she doesn't and she's like, well, then you should buy a pillow for her. She was like trying to sell her wares. I thought that was really cool. But yeah, she was super super neat. So I'm looking forward to maybe hopefully getting an interview with her and stuff like that. But also our alumni mistress that we've talked to multiple times that we were in love with. She's going to think we're going to stalk her because not only we're going to see her at New Jersey, and then in a couple weeks later, we're going to be seeing her at another con, but Felissa Rose is going to be
We're
there,
gonna have a fucking restraining order on us.
which is going to be fun. It's Felissa Rose in a hotel setting. So anybody who was at the PA Horror Con that New Jersey had with that is going to know that you're going to hear Felissa in your in your room till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning because she's up and loud and she has the distinct voice that you're going to hear. You're like, Jesus, you look out
Right.
the window.
Cranberry juice and
Yeah,
nothing
cranberry juice. Yes, yeah, that's all it is just
nothing more.
cranberry. She's drunk on the cranberry juice. But yeah, that's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun to see her again. I mean, she's always a good time. Especially, definitely want to talk to her because unfortunately, just recently, we've lost the a cast member of Sleepaway Camp.
Yeah.
Just recently. So, like I said, I'd like, obviously give our, regards for that, but, talk, maybe even throw a little bit of just talking about working with him and the actor and stuff like that, which his name kind of completely goes out of my mind right now. But like I said, yeah, I was super super sad about that. But yeah, I mean, you got Friday the 13th Part Two reunion. It's going to be there. There's the Trauma reunion. That's what I said. New Jersey loves the reunion, so I'm kind of the Detroit Rock City. Like I said, hopefully they add another third person in there. But you're gonna have a bunch of cool stuff, man. I'm looking forward. I'm looking forward to a lot of the things. We're gonna have Daniel Roebuck, from that
Yeah.
from the Munsters. So it'd be cool to talk, maybe see if we can talk to him. Bill Mosley, maybe we can
Yes.
get that
Mrs. Vamp
interview.
is stoked for that.
Yeah, well, hopefully we'll get that interview because last time, we were trying to set up one, and unfortunately, it was on the day that we weren't going to be there. So this time, we're going to be there for the whole thing. So fingers crossed with a Bill Mosley one, especially because we talk so much about Rob Zombie and we're so Rob Zombie fans and stuff like that. if we get in good with Bill Mosley, maybe we can get into the Robin Sherry zone and try to wiggle our way into one of those kind of interviews. But yeah, I mean, like I said, it's always a good time, like the New Jersey one. Like I said, I'm kind of excited just because, with this one, we're so used to the layout, from doing the New Jersey Horror Con before, where this one's going to be a little bit different. We're kind of going to go in there not knowing what's where, like before, when we go, we kind of just like we know the place, we know exactly what's going to be. You're going to go there, you're going to have that because like even with the old one, you had at the convention center they had that one room, and that's going to be another reunion is to bring in a lot of the stream people, people who are in
Yeah.
Stream, people who are in Screamboat, the whole Terrifier, community and stuff like that, which is usually in that one room
Yeah.
that they have to have. But now it's like, okay, where are they going to be? So we're not exactly sure, how the layout of this con's going to be versus, like that. But, we're going to see some, there's going to be some familiar faces like Lord Donovan's going to be there. So, we're going to see him. I don't know. I would imagine that we're going to see our alien, rock band that we all love that we talked to many times.
Yeah.
We'll probably see those guys
I
more than
love our
likely at
American
it.
Grim.
Our American Grim guys, I'm sure they're going to be there. And like I said, I'm looking forward to seeing, what kind of crazy things. Like I said, they're still adding stuff, like I said, here and there. I'm looking forward to, you know, just being at a con. Like I said, this one is, for me personally, like I said, there's a few autos that I want to do, but this one's going to be more of like a this round for me is more business. I think for me, I like it's definitely there's a lot of people because there's a lot of people that I've already met
Hmm.
previously at other cons, so I already have what would be the essential autograph and stuff like that I would need. Not saying that none of these people you could get multiple ones because I definitely could. You know what I mean? There's
Yeah.
so much stuff that from all these people, but you gotta play the game. You gotta pay the bills and all that kind of other stuff like that. So
Yeah.
but yeah,
And
I'm looking forward to like just doing the interviews. Like I said, obviously, we're gonna talk about with Christy Swanson. I mean, us being huge, huge fans of her, but her working with Adam Sandler and her working with Wes Craven and doing all that kind of stuff like that. So yeah, looking forward to that. Looking forward to talking to Tracy Lords and possibly Edward Furlong because both of those guys have worked with John Waters, and I'm a huge John Waters fan. With obviously, with her Tracy being with Crybaby and stuff like that, and Edward Furlong doing Pecker, which I love Pecker. I love that movie. Yes, the devil said it. The devil loves Pecker.
no, absolutely, no, for sure. Because it's definitely going to be great. And we're there for, well, I mean, technically we're there for all 3 days, but we're there for a solid 2 days. And that'll be really, really great. Because, yeah, there's a couple of like doubles slash like triples that I'll be getting, but they're not even fully like for me. So like Tracy Lords, this is honestly a real more first time experience because I went with a friend back then and it was more about her meeting Tracy Lords. I was just kind of tagging along despite the fact being a fan. And that's why I was like, damn, I really do like her, and I didn't get anything. I should have gotten something. So that's the only reason why I'm treating Tracy as a new opportunity, a first time opportunity. Christie is a follow up, but again, for a long time, Deadly Friend movie physical copies weren't very easy to come across, and so eventually getting a physical copy of that movie is what made me like, hey, I would like to get her on this. And again, with Daniel Roebuck, my, me being a fan of Terrifier, I kind of have to get the Santa Claus that David murdered on my poster. He belongs there. And when it comes to Bill Mosley, you know, Mrs. Vamp and I are going to get him for like about the fucking like fourth time or whatever, but this is an autograph for her. So cuz she's never met Bill and really wants to meet him. And we're both big Repo the Genetic Opera people. So that's what she's already said she would like to get him on. He's on Three from Hell. He's on, Devil's Rejects and stuff like that. So, this will be, I think, our third for him, but third or fourth, whatever. But that's a Mrs. Vamp experience. And And even when it comes to the trauma people, they have a nice, cool little mini trauma reunion. And that's really more for Mrs. Vamp also, because she couldn't make Creature Feature when all those people were there. And she was a little bummed about that. She was cool, totally understood. So I was happy that they had trauma people and then added Cindy, which is a fun little running joke that you and I have been having, where it's like, geez, maybe we need to start being like the official promotion team and booking, suggestive booking agents for Cindy with a couple of events that she's popped up on in the last couple of weeks. But I'm happy for Mrs. Vamp to get that opportunity because she likes the Toxic Avenger. And so being that she didn't get to see them last time, I'm excited for this. There's some Back to the Future people that I'm really excited about. Very, very small characters. One though that I was very infatuated with when I was a young vamp because man, she's beautiful. So I'm definitely looking forward to I think it's Blade or Knife or Spike. I forget offhand what her character was. But from Back to the Future Part Two, the girl that was tempting, Michael J. Fox and then grabbing him by the groin, like, she's awesome. And then the little girl who was, Old Man Peabody's daughter from when Marty crashed into their barn. But so many just like cool
Darth
things like
Vader.
Darth Vader. But yeah, no, I'm definitely stoked about that. So yeah, it's cool to have the opportunity for like some fun like chunk autographs again. But I'm really stoked that like in basic reality, it's like as far as meeting for signatures, it's really only four specifically. It's Bill for Mrs. Vamp, Tracy and Christy, and Daniel Roebuck. And then of course Mrs. Devil is going to meet Peter Criss, and she's super stoked about that. And I think Mrs. Vamp is thinking about tagging along for that one because I'm not sure exactly how that works. I know you have to kind of have the meet and greet, but if she's not able to tag along, I think she wants to get something, signed for Mother Vamp-in-Law to get, because it's a Kiss person, and I think that would mean, Mrs. Vamp is pretty stoked about that being a possible gift to get her and stuff like that. So we'll cross all those bridges when we get to it. But overall, this is a cool setup. You've got your big franchise in Friday the 13th for the big reunion. You've got a more, cult status reunion. And then I think a well selected group of not only consistent actors and actresses, like, for Rob Zombie fans, you could get Bill Moseley and Daniel Roebuck on a Three from Hell thing because they were both there. Then you've got a good chunk. You can definitely tell that, you know, New Jersey Horror Con, they're on the in when it comes to the Terrifier universe. Every convention, there is a serious chunk of Terrifier and Screamboat involved guests, which is awesome. And I like the obscure things. I like the fact that it's some people from Back to the Future. I like the fact that frankly, I love the fact that it's Lita Ford and Joey Quesada. Um, I think that'll be super duper cool because I've got our small printouts of the girls' photo right on my shelf right there. But I think it would be pretty cool to have like that bigger photo, that can be signed and stuff, instead of like a small little 5x7 kind of a thing. So that'll definitely be a cool thing. But I definitely think that Ryan does it really well. Of course, it's still 2 weeks away, but people's schedules are available for change. I'm not looking to speak it into existence. It's just important, Fangs and Infernos, to just kind of keep that in mind. But we didn't really mention this in a previous, review that we had done. But also, Fangs and Infernos, keep in mind that if the loss of a particular celebrity queers the deal for you, then you're genuinely not understanding what's so great about these cons. So a con that we did recently that had a really small turnout that may or may not have been influenced by their heavy hitters dropping out keep in mind that it was a very small ticket price just to get in. And the $60 to $80 combined you might have spent on these two people is now the possibility for cool merch or another opportunity that you guys could buy something from, or just leave with it and use it for whatever is necessary. That's always something to keep in mind when it comes to these cons. We never like losing people that we're stoked to meet, but it's not the end of the world, and it sets you up for some other cool opportunity that you might be like, damn, I am stoked that I was able to do that.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And like I said, throwing it back to, when you were talking about, some of the alumni that we've talked to before with at New Jersey Horror Con, you know what I mean? We were talking about, Brandy and some of the other people and stuff like that. But yeah, it's one of those ones where like I feel like this round, we'll see, but I think we might there's a good possibility of like how many of the people who are at this con that we do want to get interviews. Like I said, it's not, that's what we're gonna, one thing we can let the Fangs and Infernos know that, yeah, we get put on for press. And like I said, we've gone to cons and we've gone to them before and said like, hey, do you want to do an interview? Sometimes some people just don't want to do interviews. It might not just be that might be that their jam. They just don't like really talking about things. Maybe they've already talked about everything they want to talk about. They're just not, they're in that con mode and that's what they want to do. And that's the thing about it. It's like, we're not guaranteed to rub elbows with some of these celebrities and stuff like
Yeah.
that and get that time. But it's cool when we do, and we appreciate when we do. But I kind of feeling I have a feeling with this con, I'm hoping putting fingers in, in existence that we're gonna top our previous record of how many interviews we've got. So there's definitely a good possibility for that because, like I said, there's a lot of good group of people, and there's a good chunk of ones that we definitely want to go for. It's pretty much almost everybody in that thing. And like I said, throwing into that universe and stuff like that, we talked to Michael Levy. I know Jason's, going to be there this time, so maybe we'll talk to the other Levy and see
Yeah.
what he has to say or something like that. And like I said, or some of the other, Scream Boat and people and stuff like that. Obviously, we try to get, when it comes to the cons and stuff like that, we try to get somebody from the reunions and stuff like that. And like I said, sometimes it's good and sometimes it's not. As of this recording, when we did the New Jersey Horror Con the one time, they had the Revenge of the Nerds, reunion,
Yeah.
and we got to talk to Booger, and
Mhm.
and it was really cool. But unfortunately, we just lost recently. We lost not only Robert Carradine, we lost Ogre. So it's two that were at
Dude.
that con that I wish we would have had more time to not, to talk. I mean, not that they weren't on our list because it just happened to work out that Booger was a little bit more open and we could
Yeah.
get to him when everybody else's line had a little bit more people, and we try to be respectable when we do these interviews and not try to block anybody from meeting their fans and things like
Yeah.
that because we definitely want to respect their time and their space to meet because obviously they want to meet their fans not only just for personal reasons but obviously they're doing this this is how they how they make their money we don't want to try to stop them from doing that but yeah it's one of those ones where it's like damn, we lost two nerds, and they had that big nerds reunion, and Robert and Ogre were both there, and it's like, oh man. So it's one of those ones, like I said, when you go to these cons, even if it's something. You don't have the money. I'm not even saying money wise. You know what I mean? If there's somebody that you want to go see, man, like John Russo is going to be there. If you're a huge,
Dude.
he's up there and he's up there in age and stuff like that. Unfortunately, and if things happen, even if you don't have the money to get an autograph or a photo op with him, stand in the line just to say hi to him. Say, hey, I just wanted to say hi and, give it a couple seconds, stuff like that. They appreciate it. And it's just something that, down the line, like I said, I wish even if we didn't get the interview with them, I wish I would have gone over and said, hey, man, because I was a huge fan of Robert Carradine. I've always liked all of his movies and I'm a huge fan of Ogre. I mean, I love not only nerds, but I'm a huge Bloodsport fan.
Me,
So
me
you
too.
know,
Like losing Jackson really hurt my heart.
yeah. So it's one of those ones like I kind of wish I would at least even if we didn't get the interview, it would have been cool to just gone up to him and be like, hey man, like I really appreciate you. So it's one of those ones that, like, yeah, it's definitely, go out, if you're thinking about going to the New Jersey Horror Con, or just, go out there and, go and do it, push yourself to it. Cause like I said, it's one of those things where, a couple cons, where you do miss things. And, like I said, I'm a huge Phantasm guy, and I didn't get a chance to meet Angus Scrimm before he passed away, which was
And
like he
subspecies
was
for me.
yeah, he was one of those ones where, like, yeah, he was on my list of ones that I have gone to a con. It just didn't have the money at the time to get him because somebody else. And it's one of those ones where it's like, yeah, you just gotta pull the trigger because, just like, we want to, idolize these, maybe not idolize, but we like to enjoy these, these actors and actresses and stuff like that. But just like, I mean, other than me and Vampire, these guys are all mortal, and eventually they're gonna, they're no longer gonna be around. So even if you get that chance to just go into the thing and say hi and just tell them, like, hey, this movie saved my life, or this movie was, fun. Just, go off and do that. You know what I mean? If you can get that autograph, you can get that thing. That's cool too. But yeah, it's definitely one of those things where, like, yeah, pull the trigger when you can, because you never know. What's gonna happen next. And like I said, unfortunately, when it comes to the con circuit, like I said, we've lost a decent amount of them. You know what I mean? When we're talking about, with ones like, before, when we're talking about with Bill Moseley and Daniel Roebuck, and the Rob Zombies, Three from Hell and stuff like that, losing Sid. You know what I mean? It's one of those ones where it's like, you mean, people like, oh yeah, it'd be cool to meet him, and the people that haven't met him did, missed out on, like, just a cool guy. And that's the thing. It's like sometimes, you miss out on some of this stuff, and you could have had a crazy, thing that you can be like, oh yeah, I remember, I walked up to Ogre at the New Jersey Horror Con, and I didn't have any money, but I was like, nerds, and he grabbed me and shook my head or something, did something crazy or something like that. You just remember that, you see him, see in the news that he passed away. You're like, oh man, I'm glad I had that moment with him. So it's like, it's definitely one thing that, you gotta do, if movies and, horror movies, and or like just movies in general are your passion, and, go to these cons and stuff like that, because it's, you never know, when you may not get another chance, like you were saying with Tracy Lords. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, some of these con circuits, we don't want to shame anybody in calling them names, but some of them like to jump from, con to con to con to con to con. You're gonna see people like,
Yeah.
our lovely Felissa Rose. We love her, but she
Yeah.
is a con circuit,
Junkie.
entrepreneur junkie,
Un-
man. She is on, I mean, every time you see her, she's at another con, she's in other states. I mean, I don't even think she even has a home address anymore, because she's never home. So it's like, if you didn't get a chance to meet Felissa at this one or that one, you're more than likely probably going to meet her again, because she does a lot of those ones. But the ones where you see, like, when you see, like, New Jersey might post like a rare one, or something like, oh my god, I haven't seen that person in years.
yeah,
Go
like
out,
it's
go out and do it.
probably been over.
Yeah.
It's probably been over 10 years.
Oh
Like,
yeah, I think the last time she was, it's
I think it was
probably been over 10 years.
I think it was Baltimore's MMC, if I remember correctly,
Yeah.
because they also had like crybaby people with, of course, the John Waters reference.
Yep. Yeah, yeah. So it's one of those things. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the New Jersey Horror Con. Like I said, we always love Ryan. Those guys, you know, you know, took us under our wing when you were just a little baby podcast, and allowed us to do what we do. And he knows that, we're there, and we're going to enjoy ourselves, but we're going to be. He knows that we're respectable. We don't cross the line, we don't run after anything, and we don't do anything that we're not supposed to do. Yes, we fan out a little bit, and of course, seeing Lita again in close proximity is going to be crazy. You know what I mean? It's one of those ones where it's, yeah, you never know what's going to happen, but I'm looking forward to all the crazy shenanigans that are going to happen at the New Jersey Horror Con, and in the hotel of Felissa Rose, drinking just
Yes.
cranberry juice.
Just cranberry juice. Yeah, no, and also referencing John Russo, because I knew that he was there. I just forgot to say anything, and it was appropriate for the segment that you just did. That is actually one more follow-up autograph that I am going to get, is because I got him on my Return of the Living Dead DVD to add to that DVD with a bunch of the cast members because I loved that movie and he was so great. And we did an awesome interview with him. But the funny thing is so, I met George Romero years ago, and I know that you had met him too. And he had signed a Return of the Living Dead poster for this comic series that he was doing with, at the time. And he was so great, and I was so sad that I didn't actually get the photo with him. But hey, that's okay. But I'd had this poster on my wall signed, to Vamp from George Romero. And after the con, when I had moved and I was rehanging things, is when I realized that John Russo's name is also very prominently on that poster that George has signed. And I was like, okay, the next opportunity that I get, again, with him being up in years, the next opportunity I get, should I get that, I am absolutely going to get John one more time because that is a cool thing, though, to have John and George on the same thing. And I was like, I want that opportunity to be able to have something hanging right there with both of them on it. And so that's kind of part of that, like, something that's like, that's a cherishable, like, cool feeling to have and stuff. It's like, yeah, we're all fans, and there's so much stuff that, we could get like so much stuff on. I still have Felissa Rose stuff that I could have her sign, but I left it up to the things, of value. Forest Hills, Terrifier 2, and of course, Sleepaway Camp, where it's like, hey, think I'm very comfortable and happy with 3 as a limit, as well as other things where it's like, hey, the 1 is fine by me because that's, what I care about. Kiefer Sutherland's been in a million things I love, but my Lost Boys poster, that's good enough for me because that's the value, and so on and so forth and stuff like that. But yeah, so definitely it's going to be great to see John again, because you never really know the time. And just like Devil was saying, their Fangs and Inferno, so definitely make sure that, you're just experiencing these events. Because even if money's a little tight and you're not going to be able to go completely batty at people's tables, keep in mind that there's vendors you can check out. There's just people that are there to connect with, take photos with, just network and just enjoy the company of. You might meet somebody who just becomes your really great friend. And also vendors that you might not be able to buy something for, but they have cards, they've got online websites and stores. So maybe, maybe 2 weeks later when your paycheck comes in, it's like, hey, I was interested in that like taxidermy bat. Well, now I can get it. So it's definitely worth just supporting, getting out there and just having a great time there, my friend.
Oh yeah, for sure, man. It's gonna be a good one, man. I can't wait.
Absolutely. So yeah, as of this record, yep, 2 weeks from now, up at the Delta in New Jersey, we are going to be kicking it at New Jersey HorrorCon. Of course, thanks to Ryan and his whole team for the courtesies, and we are definitely looking forward to seeing, my brethren and Lord Damien, a little bit in Devil's Brethren, and Father Evil is going to be there. And it's definitely going to be a great time seeing people that we already have a rapport with and getting to meet people for, the first time or a rekindled kind of first time, but also just meeting new experiences and all kinds of great stuff. So we're super duper stoked about that. So we will see you in New Jersey in 2 weeks for New Jersey HorrorCon and Film Festival. As always, make sure you're checking out rockinghorror.com. They are the merch store as well for the Vampire and Devil podcast. Thank you as always to Mark and Lizzie. All of their discounts, of course, always apply in our store as well. So check out the Vampire and Devil collab category. And of course, shout out to Chris with the Buffalo Bill House, Chris and Saren with Twisted Vines, Brutalities, and of course, John Kozik with the Salem Witchboard Museum and the Witchboard Museum of Baltimore for all of their, love and support as part of our sponsors and, just great, great people and partners of the Vampire and Devil podcast. We will see you soon. Horns up. Bangs out.